The golf world is stunned tonight, and it is not just because of what happened on the 18th green at TPC River Highlands. Scottie Scheffler, the world number one, has just fired back at Viktor Hovland after comments made following the Travelers Championship playoff, and the response has left fans across the PGA Tour asking the same question. Did Viktor Hovland cross the line, or is Scottie Scheffler simply reacting to a painful loss? What was said, how it was said, and why it matters heading into the Open Championship at Royal Birkdale is something every golf fan needs to hear. Let us begin with the headline result that started all of this. Viktor Hovland is officially back in the winner's circle after defeating Scottie Scheffler in a sudden death playoff to win the Travelers Championship, capturing his 8th PGA Tour victory and his first win since the 2025 Valspar Championship. This was the moment Viktor Hovland had been chasing for over a year, and to make it even more special, both of his parents traveled from Norway to watch him win in person for the very first time. For a player who has spent months searching for his old form, this was not just another trophy. This was validation on the biggest possible stage against the best player in the world. The road to this victory, however, was anything but easy. Sunday's final round at TPC River Highlands was interrupted by nearly 90 minutes of severe weather while the leaders were playing the 14th hole. Before the delay, Scottie Scheffler had built a 2-shot advantage and looked to be in full control of the tournament. However, once play resumed, everything changed. Viktor Hovland birdied the 13th hole. Then he birdied the 14th. He continued applying pressure over the closing stretch, refusing to allow Scottie Scheffler to create the separation that has become so common whenever he reaches the top of a leaderboard. Both players had opportunities to close out the tournament on the 18th hole. Viktor Hovland had a birdie putt to win but could not convert. Scottie Scheffler also had a chance, but his birdie attempt rolled well past the hole, forcing him to make a clutch 8-foot par putt in near darkness just to extend the tournament into Monday's playoff. That left both players tied at 21 under par heading into an extra day. Then came Monday morning, and this is where the story truly becomes unforgettable. The playoff returned to the 18th hole, a 442-yard par 4 with sudden death rules. Around 3,000 fans gathered on the hillside surrounding the green, and the atmosphere was unlike anything you typically see at a Monday finish. A group of Norwegian fans who had been in Boston for the World Cup wore their soccer jerseys and chanted Hovland as he approached his golf ball in the fairway. The Americans in the crowd began the Scottie Scheffler chants to drown them out. It felt more like a Ryder Cup atmosphere than a regular tour event. Viktor Hovland teed off first and absolutely striped his drive nearly 293 yards right down the middle of the fairway. Scottie Scheffler, whose driver had been inconsistent throughout the entire week, answered with an almost identical drive. Playing first from around 155 yards, Scottie Scheffler stuffed his approach to about 4 feet. It was the kind of shot that has become almost expected during his remarkable run atop the world rankings. It looked like the shot that wins golf tournaments. Viktor Hovland answered. His approach flew beyond the hole before spinning back to about 8 feet, almost directly above Scottie Scheffler's ball. It was not closer, but it was good enough. Then came the moment nobody saw coming. Viktor Hovland calmly rolled in his birdie putt, letting out a massive fist pump, and suddenly all the pressure shifted to the world number one. Scottie Scheffler stood over a 4-foot putt, a distance from where we all expect him to make it every single time. Instead, he pushed it just past the left edge and the ball rolled roughly 7 feet by the hole. The crowd stood absolutely stunned. That is simply something we almost never see from the best player in the world, especially in such a massive moment. Viktor Hovland immediately celebrated one of the biggest victories of his recent career, while Scottie Scheffler was left wondering how such a golden opportunity slipped away. Viktor Hovland himself explained exactly what was going through his mind during that critical putt. It's one of those putts that if I make mine, his gets significantly tougher, and if I miss, he probably will make his. It was definitely no gimmies there, so to put the pressure on him was awesome. That single sentence captured the entire philosophy of the playoff. He knew he had to make his putt to have any real chance, and he delivered. For Viktor Hovland, this victory could not have come at a better time. Ever since winning the Tour Championship back in 2023, he had struggled to consistently find the level that made him one of the most feared players in golf. Coming into the Travelers Championship, he was ranked 30th in the official World Golf ranking. His best finish this season had only been a solo third place at the RBC Canadian Open 2 weeks earlier. He had also missed the cut in both of the previous major championships and had recorded just 5 top 25 finishes in 13 starts before arriving this week. That is why this win feels much bigger than just another trophy. It feels like a statement that Viktor Hovland may finally be finding his game again at exactly the right moment, with the biggest events of the summer still ahead. And the celebration that followed, where he sat shoulder to shoulder with the Norwegian fans and performed the famous row celebration, arms out and forcefully pulled in, has already become one of the most memorable images of the entire season. Meanwhile, the context for Scottie Scheffler is very different. This was his 4th runner-up finish of the year. His only victory this season had come earlier in the year at the American Express in the California desert. Despite posting multiple runner-up finishes and finishing inside the top 25 in every one of his 13 PGA Tour starts, he is still leading the FedEx Cup standings and has already finished inside the top 4 in 2 of this season's 3 major championships. Most players would love to have those numbers, but when you are Scottie Scheffler, the expectations are completely different. People expect wins, and that is exactly why this loss is going to stay in everyone's mind. The Travelers Championship also marked the end of the PGA Tour's 8 signature events for the 2026 season, making this result even more significant. Besides Viktor Hovland and Scottie Scheffler battling for the title, Collin Morikawa finished at 20 under par. Matt Fitzpatrick ended the week at 19 under, and newly crowned United States Open champion Wyndham Clark finished at 18 under. Now, this is where the second story enters, and it is the reason we are all here. The drama did not actually end after Viktor Hovland lifted the trophy, because once both players started speaking after the playoff, the conversation took a very different direction. Following the victory, comments made after the tournament suddenly created fresh tension between Viktor Hovland and Scottie Scheffler. Scottie Scheffler responded to remarks attributed to Viktor Hovland involving a joke that suggested Scottie Scheffler had called him old or implied that he was getting past his prime by saying something along the lines of, "You're getting old now, huh?" Scottie Scheffler did not completely blow the situation up, but he admitted he felt Viktor Hovland's comments were a bit inelegant, making it clear that they bothered him more than many people expected. Whether it was simply harmless locker room banter or something that genuinely touched a nerve, it suddenly added a personal layer to what had previously been viewed as a purely competitive rivalry. At the same time, the playoff loss has reignited another conversation that is becoming harder to ignore. Across golf media, more analysts are beginning to ask whether Scottie Scheffler is simply going through an unfortunate stretch of close calls or whether something deeper is happening whenever he gets into position to close tournaments. Despite consistently putting himself in contention, he has now gone months without adding another PGA Tour victory. Some commentators have even started describing him as a player who tightens up under pressure late on Sundays after another runner-up finish and another painful missed opportunity. Scottie Scheffler himself addressed his performance directly during the post-round interview. "Maybe I hit it a little firmer than I intended to," he said about the missed putt. He also spoke about his overall week and said, "Ball striking is definitely in a good spot. That was some of the best I hit it all season." Obviously a little disappointed with the results of today, he also acknowledged the difficulty of the situation, admitting he tried to stick to his routine, but that Monday morning finishes bring a different kind of challenge from a logistics perspective. Scottie Scheffler also spoke about Viktor Hovland himself, and his words were far more respectful than the classless narrative some outlets have suggested. He said, "When you see a guy like that who practices as hard as he does and works as hard as he does, you're always glad to see those people have success." He acknowledged their long history together, dating back to college golf, and praised Viktor Hovland's work ethic. So while the post-round conversation did add tension, Scottie Scheffler's actual words about his rival were measured and professional. Viktor Hovland himself reflected on the emotional weight of the win, saying, "I just proved a lot to myself that I have got the game now." That statement carries enormous meaning for a player who has spent months questioning whether his best golf was behind him. Whether the criticism of Scottie Scheffler is fair or not is something every fan will have their own opinion about. It is far too early to seriously question a player who is still leading the FedEx Cup, contending almost every single week and producing elite golf on a consistent basis. But at the same time, moments like that 4-foot miss are exactly the kind of images that fuel these conversations. For Viktor Hovland, though, the focus is completely different. Winning under pressure after a weather delay, beating the #1 player in the world head-to-head. And doing it in one of the PGA Tour's biggest signature events could be exactly the confidence boost he needed heading into the Genesis Scottish Open and the Open Championship. Looking ahead, the PGA Tour now heads to Illinois for the John Deere Classic before crossing to the United Kingdom for the Genesis Scottish Open and then the Open Championship at Royal Birkdale, where Scottie Scheffler will arrive as the defending champion. Every tournament from this point forward is going to matter even more. Can Viktor Hovland build on this win and turn it into a serious run for the rest of the season? Will Scottie Scheffler answer his critics and return to winning before another major opportunity slips away? Meanwhile, the PGA Tour has already announced that beginning after next season, the entire schedule will be radically reworked, aimed at creating more events with leaderboards similar to what fans saw this week at the Travelers Championship. So the real question that every golf fan needs to consider is this: was that 4-foot miss simply one unlucky moment for the best player in the world? Or are the growing questions about Scottie Scheffler's ability to close out tournaments starting to become legitimate concerns? And did Viktor Hovland's post-round comments truly cross a line, or was it nothing more than harmless banter between two competitors who have known each other since their college days? The answers to those questions will likely define the second half of the 2026 PGA Tour season, and with major championship golf just weeks away at Royal Birkdale, we will not have to wait very long to find out.